You're watching NewsX. I'm Rishabh Gulati. Ladies and gentlemen, 90% of the Lok Sabha battle 2024 is now concluded. 90%. We've just got one phase left with 50 odd seats left to vote, and then it's done. On the 4th of June, the results will be live, as you know, right here on NewsX. Delhi is finished, completed. Haryana is completed. Jammu and Kashmir is completed. Large parts, most of UP is completed. Remember, Kashi and Ayodhya yet to vote in the final phase. And of course, we have elections still due in a few other constituencies. Odisha has also been completed today. So the final phase is left. Now, there are issues which are hot topics, which often, let's face it, we in the media sometimes keep discussing, for want of better things to do. But in the public mind space, an election does crystallize a lot of things. There's a lot of hyperbole. There's a lot of semantical arguments going on. There's a lot of personality politics. There's a lot of polarization. Sometimes even a lot of ugliness takes place. But the crystallization of serious issues that require an ideological and approach-based conversation, we do get the opportunity during election cycles. And the stage has been now set for the last, because that's the time we've got left in the next few days, for one of the last core examinations of this constant tug that we have in politics. Hindu, Muslim, Hindu, Muslim, Hindu, Muslim, what to do, secularism, appeasement versus Hindu nationalism, constant tug that we've going on. Part of it has to be distilled down into the logic of arguments. So the final part of a marathon set of conversations that we've had right here on NewsX, and as reasonable, I'm hoping solutions-oriented or productive nature that we try to do here on this platform. The last part is a conversation that has been set today by the Prime Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2005, there were just over 24, 24, and between 24 and 40 minority educational institutions. Minority education institutions that have minority status, in which the trusts and the boards that run the education institution can offer education seats on the basis of a religious identity. There were just about a couple dozen, maybe 40. That went up not 10-fold, 20-fold, but 30-fold by 2014, 2015. Now, what does that mean? Places like Jamia Millia Islamia, which earlier would have had an SC, ST, OBC reservation, just like any centrally aided institution, as soon as you get a minority tag, you no longer have to have an SC, ST, OBC reservation, but you can have a reservation on the basis of religious identity, in this case, Muslim reservation. There has been, since 2005, for the past 20 years, cases going on in the court, all the way to the apex court, about the minority status for Aligarh Muslim University as well. Now, as a reminder, roughly about 40% of minorities, Muslims in this country, do qualify for reservations under the OBC category. Separate minority institutions means that there is a qualifications for a certain number of seats under OBC category. Then, as Muslims, de facto reservations in minority-only institutions. Now, the Prime Minister says these laws were changed, and this, of course, then disenfranchised from those, some very good and excellent centers of learning, Jamia certainly being one of them, those who happened to be Hindu but were SC, ST and OBC but weren't Muslims. So let's have this conversation on minority educational institutions. Joining us on the broadcast to discuss this is Vinita Hariharan, representing the BJP. An educationist, Firoz Bakht Ahmed. He's been the former Chancellor of the Maulana Azad University, is joining us on the broadcast. And Deshritakam Nigam is on the broadcast as well. We're going to try to get in Shams Ravish Rain, who's a lawyer, to discuss this further with us as well. Okay? So let me start with you, Firozji. Now, this is what the statistics, Firozji, are telling us. And before we set up this conversation, can you explain to our viewers what do we mean by a minority educational institution?
Right. We just start from the scratch. As far as India is concerned, I mean, we have a law which has been drafted by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and we are following that. It's an excellent law. However, there are certain things which we need to do.
Okay, we can't hear you at all, sir. I think it might be the earpiece. We can't hear you at all. We'll get that sorted out and come back to you in just a second so we can carry on this conversation. Mr. Nigam, let me come to you. The statistics tell us 21 minority status educational institutions in 2005. It peaked in 2013. It went up to 1,961 in the 10 years or 9 years under the UPA. This was, of course, after a National Commission for the Minority Educational Institutions Act gave authorities the power to grant minority status to schools established by minority groups. Now, Deshratan Nigam, it is the mandate of government to provide education for all. It is a right in this country under the RTE that everybody deserves to get educated. And if minority institutions want to set up educational institutions, they have a right to do so. So why should it be a problem or disenfranchisement of some sort if the number of minority education institutions in this country goes up?
Well, I don't think anybody has an objection for, setting up an institution, a minority institution. The issue arises threefold, as you rightly pointed out. One reservation as an OBC, one as a Muslim, and one de facto reservation. So all the seats, the SC, you won't get reservation for SCs, STs, and the OBCs in those institutions. The entire, space would be occupied by the, a particular minority who's running the institute. So the threefold whammies for the people who are for this kind of a reservation and anti-whammy for the people who do not get the reservation. That is what the Prime Minister was raising, a particular issue. And then the grants are given by the state governments government aids are given to these institutions also. And they can teach their own religion also out there. But such a situation does not or is not available to the government-aided institutions who are run by Hindus. So that discrimination is there. Original Constitution does not provide the religious-based reservations. And then in 1981, Article 15.5, by way of amendment, provided the OBC reservations, but created an exception in the that it cannot be, implemented in minority institutions.
Okay.
So that kind of an institution. See, now we have a Calcutta, we have a Karnataka example, we have West Bengal example, and there, the entire Muslims have been brought in, and even there, it's not a concept of social justice. So therefore, what we have to look at from the point of socially and educationally backward class, not from the point of view of religion. So social justice has to be the primary focus rather than the religion.
Okay. So we've had the odd situation, Mr. Abbas, that in a country where, of course, we are guaranteeing education for all, when it comes to reform of madrasas, which are primarily schools that are providing learning amongst others, but primarily to Muslim students, if not exclusively to Muslim students, there seems to be an anathema, there seems to be an angst about any kind of people talking about reforms of such institutions. But at the same time, when places like Jamia are given minority status, there seems to have been an increase, and not a slight increase, from 21 to 1900 such institutions. Now, the argument put forth is that why? Because Muslims in OBC categories anyway got under reservations, and by declaring minority institutions, the SC, STs and other OBCs then get denied the opportunity for such institutions. What do you make of this?
Two quick points, Rishabh Saab. As a matter of fact, I've been quite vociferous in my state of Karnataka and the Bengaluru city that madrasa certainly do need reforms. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you, I did go to my schooling, college, university, so on and so forth, but I also went to the madrasa. And when Modi ji spoke of ek haath mein Quran or ek haath mein computer, that was very welcome. As a matter of fact, I would definitely take a step ahead and say, as a progressive young Indian Muslim youth, there should be certainly reformations made in the madrasa system so that you have a knowledge, your complete equitable understanding of the religion and, of course, of mathematics, science, and much more educated learning system. Now, coming to the reservation part. Many a times on many fronts, when I've been debating since my college university days in the Model United Nations or moot court competitions, we've always debated on this front. The fact is, I certainly do understand that when it comes to reservations, it has been spoken for a very large time. Let me tell you, but I have a basic difference here with the Bharatiya Janata Party. I come from Karnataka, and recently we saw the 4% reservation under the Bamai government was brought to 2% for the Muslims. The fact is, this existed in Karnataka for the last 30 years, started from H.D. Deve Gowda ji, who was the chief minister here. The fact, it's rightly so that the BJP calls out a state of Karnataka, which gives this generalization of reservation to Muslim. But let me bring to your notice, 25 years under Gujarat, 17 castes of Muslims are given reservation under the same OBC quota.
Correct.
For 20 years, Shivraj Singh Chauhan, under the BJP rule, has given 22 castes of Muslims the same reservation under OBC.
Correct.
Assam, Manipur, 2 subcastes of even Yogi Adityanath's government, 2 subcastes get this reservation, sir. So the fact is, let us cut across political lines and take one sacrosanct stand for Viksit Bharat. Do we hold reservations or do we not? And if we say Karnataka is doing wrong, then so is Gujarat, Assam, Manipur,
Okay,
Madhya
but
Pradesh,
Mr. Abbas,
and
that is exactly the point of the conversation. The point of the conversation
Yes.
is, as you mentioned, okay, technically, roughly just under 40% of all Muslims in this country can, not all avail, but can qualify for reservations under these existing OBC classifications. So then what is the requirement for minority institutions in which there is a 100% religious-based reservation?
Certainly, sir. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you, I've many a times put across the point that 100% reservation will certainly cause decree to the others. Being one-sided bias of a partisan where you get 100% reservation for minority institution, which is certainly not fair. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you quickly about this, Rishabh Saab. I've done my bachelor's in journalism and master's in media. I was also an aspirant to go to Jamia Millia Islamia University to do my master's. I would have got the seat as well. Or rather, maybe somebody more deserving would not get. But the fact is, 100% reservation, I will make a very strong, concrete statement here, would be absolutely not okay. Let me tell you, as a matter of fact, I'm a Muslim here in Karnataka, and Muslims come under the 4% category for the OBC. I have not taken up any reservation, be it in my education system or even applying for any of the government jobs. Why? Because I come with a privilege. I'd rather let it go. Deshratan Nigam ji says, I differ with him, but on this point I agree. Socially, economically backward class would be a rather more deserving
so
than
it's,
generalized
so that's a there you heard it, all right. It's a very practical and pragmatic conversation, and the reason, ladies and gentlemen, that we invite people like Feroz Ahmed, the reason we have Syed Asad Abbas sitting with us, because they argue on point, not on the point of ideology. That just because I'm a Muslim, so anything about Muslims, I'm supposed to toe some sort of line. You have to apply your mind to it. If it makes sense, it makes sense. It doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. So let me try to get Mr. Ahmed back into this conversation. Mr. Ahmed, you've been an educationist and a teacher your entire life. You've, of course, been part of institutions, including the Maulana Azad University. Can you explain to our viewers what is the requirement per se for minority institutions, and how is that need being disabused or overused?
All right. Now, let me begin it like this. Earlier, while I was speaking, I think I was not audible. You wanted to find out what is the meaning of this minority institution. Well, according to our constitution, Article 25 to 29, now these, institutions based on religion or maybe linguistic minority, they are allowed by the constitution, one thing. Second thing is, let me tell you one thing, as far as the reservations are concerned, quotas are concerned, I want to, in fact, state a very important, situation which happened at the time of the draft constitution 292 and 294 in 1945. At that time, there were 7 people, and a majority of those people was supposed to decide whether reservations should be there in India or not. Well, these people were, now of those 7 people, Maulana Azad, the first education minister, then Maulana Hibzur Rahman, then Hussain Bhai Lalji, Tajammul Hussain, and Begum Ezaz Rasool. These were 5 Muslim MPs that actually voted against reservation. Number one, the people who voted for reservation, very strangely, one was, Rajgopalachari, Mr. Rajgopalachari, and the other one was the first, Home Minister of India, right? So, Maulana Azad, he was not in favor of any kind of reservation. He did not believe that Muslims are in minority. He called Muslims a second majority, which is very true, with all due regards to them and to their rights. Now, third and the last thing, I heard both Mr. Nigam as well as Dr. Abbas. Let me tell you one thing. As far as reservations are concerned, quotas are concerned, these will divide the nation. These will make India a divided house. Best thing is merit. And lastly, once, I filed a case against Jamia Millia Islamia against its minority status. Then what happened was, Mr. A.R. Antule, who was the Minister of Minorities at that time, he called me. He said, Firoz, please take your case back. It is going to, impact the entire system of education of Muslims in Jamia Millia Islamia. I asked him one thing. Okay, I will take this case back, but please justify. You have been, a chief minister of Maharashtra. Did you take any quota? You are a bar at law, and you are such a learned man. Did you take quota anywhere? He said, no, I am a self-qualified person. It's all based on my own merit. So mostly, lastly, in as far as 65 years of Congress are concerned, in Muslim localities, rather than building the colleges, the schools, the training centers for girls, playgrounds, stadiums, and parks.
So it's created, Emerji, it's created a dichotomous situation, and I'm just going to get you back to have this conversation further. But the dichotomous situation, ladies and gentlemen, is this, and we have to try to address it. That if we talk about madrasa reform in this country, it is seen as interference in the affairs, educational affairs of minorities. At the same time, the increase in minority institutions is not seen as an interference. It's a rather dichotomous situation. So, Emerji, I'm just coming to you in a second. Let me get Vinita ji into this conversation. Vinita ji, what is the point that your party leader, India's Prime Minister, is trying to make? Why does he feel that the minority institutions are therefore at the disenfranchisement of OBCs, SC, STs, and in fact, if a generalized reservation was to be brought, it would in fact lead to the disenfranchisement, because the Congress says no, they will simply increase the percentage, remove the 50% cap and bring it that way.
Yeah, so what the BJP is saying is about, reservation on the basis of merit, just as what Nigamji just said. I would like to resonate the views that the original makers of the Constitution did not really envisage a reservation based on religion, but it was in the subsequent, the articles which has been mentioned, the 16.4, which guarantees reservation for a backward class of citizens, which is not adequately represented in the services under the state, and then subsequently the Article 15.4, which actually provided for some reservation for Muslims. But what the BJP is talking about is, like what Modi ji said in his speech, Sarva Dharma Sambhav. That is, he talks about the much, touted phrase of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. Yeah, Sambhav, that's right. So it's about, catering for all religions, or for all citizens of India. In fact, regardless of their caste, creed, and religion and sex, we have our Vikas agenda for all the citizens of the country. So that is what we have to go towards, as this is all affirmative action. And it's high time that we, go beyond affirmative action and go beyond all of these reservations and go towards a meritorious society, meritocratic society, where everybody gets their need based on what they deserve. And that would have to come when everybody is in an equal level.
So, ma'am, that's a complicated. Affirmative action is a complicated argument because nobody, including yourself, is targeting about quotas per se, because everybody is on the premise that yes, SC, STs, OBCs require quotas. Within the OBCs, there are certain Muslim communities who already get quotas. Nobody has an issue with that. So the question is particularly on minority institutions, on why they have increased from 21 all the way up till 1900, and right now there are 1500, 1600 minority institutions. Why do you think then the Congress increased them 24, 30-fold in 10 years?
Yeah,
For
absolutely.
their vote bank politics.
Yeah, let her answer.
Yeah, absolutely. The tenet of the Congress has always been, based on appeasement politics and vote bank politics, as was said just now. So that is what the BJP is trying to refute time and again when the Congress, comes forth with this appeasement politics strategy about giving quotas to a particular religion is what BJP is opposed to. But nevertheless, if you look at the Vikas agenda of the BJP, of the NDA government, what has been done in the last 10 years towards Muslims, look at the abolishment of the triple talaq, which has benefited Muslim women so much across, the country. To see the opinion of the Muslim women, they're also happy about the repeal of the triple talaq. And look at all of that has been done for the Hajj pilgrims. Look at all of that has been done for minority education in the country. So it's not that our Vikas agenda does not include.
All right. Okay. Sayyid Al-Sadar wants to make a point. Mr. Abbas, go ahead.
Yeah. Quickly, ma'am, you mentioned about Muslims women being very happy. Do you have any empirical evidence on that front, ma'am, that they're very happy with the triple talaq?
No,
as a matter of fact,
I don't know if there's any surveys being done. We've interviewed a few who, of course, were victims, but I don't know if any surveys have been done.
I think triple talaq ban is a good thing not only for Muslims, but the Muslim families, men as well.
Okay.
Feroz bhai, I will elucidate on this point.
Yes, please.
The fact is, let me share with you, as a practicing Muslim, the fact triple talaq never existed in the religion itself, neither in the scriptures, neither in the Quran. The fact of the matter is, it was a Saudi Arabian practice which came into existence and it was followed like a tradition. I or my family or many others have been against this. I am glad that the Bharatiya Janata Party came into the fray and they did this. But the problem, of course, lies in the constitutional law and its implementation, where the talaq becomes null and void, the man goes to the jail, there are no provisions for women made there. So there I deter. Of course, I stand with you on triple talaq.
So on the technicalities, yes, please.
Very important point here now. A very important point. Rishabh Saab, today let me take a stand and tell you that the fact is, Vinita ji, also the BJP representative, is making a point on meritocracy. So ma'am, are you taking a line up with your party line or is it not? Do you think that reservation should go? It should be only based on merit? I'm shocked because Amit Shah ji, Modi ji, all of them want reservation for scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, OBC.
Okay.
Are you saying it should be based
on
merit?
Let her clarify. Let her clarify.
No, don't quote me out of context. So what I was trying to say when
Yeah, let her answer.
So what I was trying to say when Rishabh intervened was that we have there's a long way to go when we have a level playing field in the country when affirmative action will go. That is the ideal scenario when everybody is equal. So that is what we're all striving for. That is what good governance strives for across the globe. So affirmative action is not supposed to be there forever. It is the subsidies are there for the poor so that they come up to a level where they can earn for themselves and where they can repay the loans that they've taken from the bank. So what the BJP is striving for is a balanced approach of welfare economics, market economics, affirmative action, and finally move towards a country where we don't need all of this, where everybody is in a level playing field. That's the ideal scenario. That's the ideal scenario.
If at all there are reservations.
Okay, all right, okay, gentlemen. I don't want to get distracted from a conversation which we began, which was on minority institutions. I think we know the position. Okay, all right. But I want to try this. Just hang a second. I want to get Mr. Nigam back in. Mr. Nigam, how do we reasonably have a conversation in this country? Can we just sort out this connection issue with Firozji, because then this will keep on happening? Mr. Nigam, how do we reasonably have a conversation in this country about the modern, young Indian Muslim, boy or girl, okay, might be in school or in college, and their education and how they should be educated, how and what educational reform is required. How do we reasonably have this conversation?
Well, I think there are people like Mr. Abbas and Firoz Bak, and there are many out there. And I know personally also many people. They are willing to have a discussion also on this subject. And as I said, the entire, Indian political system must focus on social justice, social and economic backwardness, rather than taking religion as the basis. Once you take a religion as the basis, then there would be similar demands from the other religions also, and that is what is happening. And once you make 100% minority religious institution, which means there are some people, who would be deprived of the admission or the opportunities, as Abbas was saying. And similarly also, you have an OBC reservation, then you have a Muslim reservation, then you have a de facto as reservation because an institution is itself a 100% minority institution. So these three institutions will certainly deprive the OBCs and the SC/STs from getting their due share in the reservation process.
So let me take the difficult questions with you. Then I'll go Mr. Abbas and leave it with Vinita ji. Mr. Nigam. Yeah. On the issue, and you're a lawyer yourself, you know how difficult this argument has become in court regarding the Aligarh Muslim University. It's been going on as a court case for the better part of 20 years. Okay? Should we carry on with the logic in principle, en masse, not a few, not a dozen, not a couple of dozen, but thousands of minority educational institutions?
I don't think that there is a need for that. These institutions should be based on secular principles with the reservation given to socially and educationally backward.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Irrespective of any religion.
Now hold your thought. Let me get Mr. Asad back. Mr. Asad, in specific cases, in specific areas, I don't want to have a blanket conversation. So there might be the need for a few dozen in specific cases, in specific areas.
I think I am audible now.
Yeah, sir, you are. Please just hold your thought, please. But into the thousands, do we need thousands of minority-only educational institutions for either primary, secondary or higher learning?
That's a very good question, Sab. And I'm glad that we are having this talk. These are very, very pertinent questions, uncomfortable, but we are addressing the elephant in the door. The fact of the matter is, Vinita ji mentioned a very good point, in terms of meritocracy. I have debated on this front as well in the Model United Nations. As a matter of fact, when I learned on the front, do we need minority institutions? Do we need a specialized form of that? My clear answer as a young Indian progressive Muslim youth, no, absolutely we don't. And we certainly need meritocracy, but to a 50% point. Why I stand by the BJP line, Congress line, as a matter of fact, all the political lines, there are scheduled tribes, there are scheduled castes, there are OBCs, most backward classes which need reservation even today, to this day. We have the privilege, they don't have the privilege. I stood corrected then after a month when I did a research that there is. But of course, religion-based, I would say certainly no. Okay. In terms of economically weaker section of the society.
So we are in generalized agreement. It's almost impossible to find generalized agreement on anything in this country in the middle of elections. Okay, so we are in generalized agreements. Finish your thought.
Yes, thank you, sir. The fact she mentioned about Hajj subsidy. Now look at how BJP has actually done good for the Muslim. The fact is, anybody goes to Hajj, Rishabh Saab, and you're aware, and the viewers of NewsX are aware, we are not supposed to take any subsidy or a karza or a loan. Correct. It is supposed to be, otherwise Hajj aap pe wajib nahi hai. It is not a compulsion. The fact the Bharatiya Janata Party came on the forefront, took away the Hajj subsidy, they have done the right thing over there.
Okay. Let me just, since you mentioned it, let me make it caveat. We have opened Hajj to market forces. By simply having more tour operators offering Hajj services, the prices have gone down and the government need for subsidy that the taxpayer is paying has been eliminated. So overall, it's been a good premise and Hajj numbers are going up, which is good. Okay, all right. I want to ask Mr. Ahmed the same question. Mr. Ahmed, not a few dozen, not a few in number, but thousands of minority educational institutions required in this country that offer 100% quotas to or on the basis of religion.
See, Rishabh, I am very glad that you have locked the bull by horns in this debate, and there is no heckling, there is no tutu man, because this is a very high highly educational debate. Now, let me tell you one thing. As far as quotas are concerned, as far as reservations are concerned, as far as tags of majority, minority are concerned, India has been bogged down because of these things. And in fact, we can, till now, we would have become Vishwaguru, but we could not become Jagat Guru because of all these hassles, number one. Number two is, India is a secular country. Why should there be quotas? And as our friend from BJP has just said, that meritocracy should be actually the watchword. And one more thing, Modi ji has always been saying, मैं हर मुसलमान के एक हाथ में कुरान और एक में कंप्यूटर देखना चाहता हूँ. And he also says that Muslims are like my children. I want to treat them on par with other communities. So this is what he has been saying since he has been there on the task for the last 10 years. So having said this,
Okay.
I think let us believe in him, because he says Modi ki guarantee. He should give the guarantee of to Muslims of making schools, of good playgrounds in Muslim areas, rather than what has been done, that police stations have been built in Muslim localities.
Okay, all right.
This should
Okay,
be
okay. Let me
Modi's
put that. I'm
guarantee.
short of time, and I want to address one more question before I wrap up. Vinita ji, if you have an opportunity to continue the governance of this country at the national level, will you make a concerted effort so as that whether it be schooling or higher education institutions, that the people and the children of the Muslim community want for nothing? If they want to have a science education, they want to play sports, that enough seats are available, period.
Yes, definitely. That echoes the ethos of our philosophy as well, which is again coming back to Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas. The Vikas agenda is open for all, despite religion and caste, creed, etc. And I would like to clarify on the point where the opponents jumped in, is that when we continue with the SC/ST OBC reservation as per constitution, but there will be a day when the SC/ST and OBC also become forward class in letter and spirit.
Okay.
Is what we are striving for as a
well,
country.
it's been 80 years. Let's hope it doesn't take another 80. Okay. I'm absolutely out of time, ladies and gentlemen. Let's leave it as a point of thought. What is that you want to achieve? You want to achieve that anybody who is Muslim in this country and has children does not have to fret about educational opportunities for the child, period. That's the goal. Once they get admission, they want to get a quality admission in school and have opportunities available at university, and there are so many fields that have opened up these days. We have to have a fundamental conversation that in the order of keeping special in the name of protected, have we actually ghettoized, ignored, not reformed, not developed madrasas? In the name of minority educational institutions, have we ensured that this is the only premise that we can offer to Indian Muslims, and not to say that as an Indian Muslim you should be able to go to the best universities and there should be enough seats available in the best universities that if you are hardworking, want to give it a shot, crack the entrance, you can find a seat without having to rely on your religious identity. There is no denying that the minority education institutions in this country went up from 20 to 2000. But the IITs, IIMs, central universities did not go up in that same 20-fold figure. There is the crux of the problem. There is the crux of the argument that this is not progress, it is appeasement. I thank my guests. We take a break. See you in a minute.